quick demo of this video. Here we'll build an Angular to-do app from scratch using Firebase. This is the final project. To insert a task, provide the title here. Then click on this plus button. Data from this application is stored inside this file store DB here. Once you complete a task, you can update the status like this. The list is sorted in such a way that always incompleted tasks will be there at the top of the list. To permanently delete a task, you can click on this trash icon here. This app creation exercise will definitely teach you a lot about Angular basics and also integration with a DB like Firebase. So I'm sure you will find this tutorial helpful for your upcoming Angular projects. Hence, please watch till the end of this video. And also, I would like to ask you a favor. If you find this video helpful, please consider subscribing to this channel if you haven't yet. And also, please like and share this video with your friends and colleagues. Let's start with creating a new Angular project inside this folder. For that, first of all, we have to open command prompt from this same folder directory here. So here is the shortcut. Just replace this folder path with the command cmd, then hit enter. It will open the command prompt from the same directory as that of this folder here. Now, in order to create a new Angular project, you could do this ng new, the name of the app, which is to do app. Hit enter. During the process, it may ask questions for initial configuration of the application. So currently it is asking, would you like to add routing into this application? Press N for no. Hit enter. Which style sheet format would you like to use? I will stick with CSS. Now currently it is installing some default NPM packages into the application. It may take a while based on your internet speed, so please be patient. Finally, here we have done with the app creation command. As a result of that, here we have the new folder with the same name as that of this project here, to do app. Now, in order to open this project folder inside VS Code editor, first of all, we have to navigate into this folder to do apps. So here we go, cd, the name of the folder. Hit enter. Currently, we are inside the folder to do app. Now, to open the folder inside VS Code editor, you could do this code space period or dot simple. Hit enter. So here we have opened the project folder to do app inside VS Code editor. Now before going further with the app development, first of all, let's look how this application looks like. For that, we have to run this Angular project here. So open a new terminal. Now the first thing I want to do inside this terminal is that I want to hide this entire path directory here. It's too long, so that you could see the entire command that I'm going to type here in a single line. So here is the command prompt, then $G. This command will only work with command prompt. As you can see inside this VS Code terminal, I am using command prompt. You could see that inside this drop down here. By default, I am using command prompt. If you are using PowerShell or other command tools inside this VS Code terminal, this command will not work. Okay, hit enter. Boom, that's it. Now, in order to run an Angular project, you could do this ng serve-o. Hit enter. It will compile the project and open the same in your default web browser. So this is how the default Angular project looks like. Now I'm going to create a Firebase application for saving the data from this Angular application here. So first of all, let's go to the website firebase.google.com. Now click on this go to console button. Now let's create a new Firebase project. I will name it as to do app. Now inside this step, disable this Google Analytics, which is not needed at this stage. You can enable that if you want later. Okay, so go ahead with create project. So the new Firebase project is ready. Let's go ahead with continue. Now let's create a DB inside this Firebase project. For that, go ahead with Firestore. Let's create a database. So here we have two modes, production mode and test mode. In production mode, we are not allowed to read or write into the database without authentication. But in test mode, we are allowed to read or write without any authentication. So to get started with the development, I will go ahead with the test mode. Later, once you publish this application, you can switch into production mode. And you can customize the access rules as per your requirement. Now click on next. Now from this drop down, we have to assign a location for the cloud server for this application. So it should be near to most of your customers' location. Okay, once you set this, click on enable. So here we have created a brand new Firestore DB. In a bit, we'll be inserting task records into this DB from this Angular application here. We have configured this Firestore DB in test mode, meaning we can read or write without any authentication, and which is specified inside this rules tab here. So if you want to change any of these rules, you can do that here. Okay, so back to the data. Now we have to integrate this Firebase project into this Angular application here. For that, back to the VS Code. Let's open one more terminal. And let's hide this long path here. To clear this command tool, you can do this, type CLS, hit enter. Now in order to interact with this Firebase project from this Angular application, we are going to use this npm package here, angular/5. To install the same, I will copy this command from here and let's paste it over here inside this terminal, hit enter. Once it is done, let me close this terminal here. Back to the Firebase project overview. Now under this get started session, you could see this option for web along with Android and Apple. Click on this web option here. To register this app, let's provide a nickname, register the app, and then just copy this Firebase configuration object back to the editor, open environment.ts file. That's where we are going to save the configurations. I will paste it over here like Firebase config. That's it. So I have assigned the copied object into this property Firebase config. Now let's pass this configuration object to the module that we have just inserted, which is angular/5. For that, open the default module.ts file, which is app.module.ts. Now let me switch into the Zen mode of this VS Code, and thereby you could take a lot of space from this editor here. So here is the shortcut for switching into the Zen mode. Hold Ctrl, then press K, release both of them, then press Z. That's it. Here we are inside the Zen mode. Now if you want to see the files or the project folder, just press Ctrl B. So here we have the Explorer through which we can open different files from the application. To quit this mode, double press Escape. I like this Zen mode. Let me know what you think. Now we have to import these classes from Angular 5. So here we go, from Angular/5/compact, and we want to import Angular 5 module. Now let me duplicate this. We also need to import the Firestore module from compact/Firestore. Let's import Angular Firestore module. Now inside this imports array, we will do this from this class Angular5 module. We have to call this method initialize app. Into this method, we'll be passing the configuration that we have saved into this environment.ts file here. So here we go, environment.firebaseconfig. Inside this environments folder, we have two environment files. One is with the extension .ts and the other is with the extension prod.ts. This environment.ts file will be used when we are in testing mode or development mode. And when you publish this application into a server, this environment.ts file will be used. So most probably you will be using the same Firebase application. So I will copy paste this Firebase config into this production environment also. There might be people who are seeing environment.ts file for the first time. Angular configuration details are stored inside environment.ts file. Okay, so that's what we have done. Firebase config details is saved inside this environment.ts file, and we can access that throughout the application like this. Now after this class, we have to import this Angular Firestore module. So let me paste that here. Now before going forward, inside this project folder here, I will create a text file, app_structure.txt. Inside that, I will paste the app structure that we are going to build in a bit. So first of all, we have an SRC folder which is here, and then app module folder. Inside that, we have the app.module.ts file which is here already. Now we have to create this component to do. Let me open the terminal. For that, you can press Alt here because the menu that we have seen outside the Zen mode is not showing here. In order to show the menu, you could press Alt, then go to View, then Terminal. Or you could use this shortcut here, Control, then backtick. In order to clear the existing commands, I will do this CLS. Now to create this Angular component here, you could do this ng g for generate c4 component and the name of the component which is to do. Now if we execute this component creation command, it will create 4 files like this. One for style sheet, one for HTML, one for testing purpose, and here we have the original TypeScript file. Among these, I want to skip these 2 files, the component specific style sheet and this test file here. For skipping the style sheet, I will do this -s, and in order to skip this test file here, I could do this --skip test. Hit enter. Boom, here we have the component to do with the corresponding HTML and TypeScript file. Now we have to create a service class called to do. So here we go, ng g for generate, s for service, and the name of the service class will be to do, and we want to create this inside the folder shared/to do. Here also we have to skip the test file, --skip test. Hit enter. There we go. Here we have the new folder shared. Within that, we have the to-do service class file. So this much is already been here inside this project. And here we are saying that inside the environment.ts file, we'll be saving the Firebase connection details that we have already done. Now inside this index.html, we have to have the CDN path for Bootstrap and Phone Awesome icons. So let's start customizing by adding Bootstrap and Phone Awesome icons into the application. So go to the website getbootstrap.com. Let's go to the documentation. You could see the Bootstrap CDN reference for its style sheet here. You could see the same inside this launching page here. Here we have the same CDN reference. So I will copy this from here and let's paste it inside this index.html, which is the root HTML file for any Angular project. So I will paste it just before this head end tag here. Like this, let's add for our some icon CDN reference. So for icons CDN reference. Copy CDN reference from this website cdnjs.com, and I will be using this file here all.min.css. Copy the link tag and let's paste it over here. Now let's customize this default Angular application as per our requirement. So everything starts from this index.html. The whole HTML wrapping for this application is defined here. Now inside this body tag, the default app component will be displayed, which you can see under this app module here. App component. So here we have the corresponding selector. So in order to display an Angular component in an HTML file, a tag with this selector is to be created. That's what we see inside this index.html here, app-root. So when this component is rendered, corresponding HTML app component.html will be displayed. Now this whole code is responsible for the default view of the application here. So first of all, let me get rid of that. First of all, we have a container from Bootstrap and then a div with the class row. In order to align the content at center, we have justify content center class. Now here we will be showing the component that we have just created, which is to do component here. So here's the corresponding selector app to do. So let's create a selector with that app to do. Hit enter. That's it. Now I want to wrap this component within the Bootstrap grid like this. Div call md5. Okay, that's it. Let me save this. So here we have wrapped the to-do component with the Bootstrap grid system. So here is the component to-do, and here we have the corresponding HTML inside that. We have a para with the text to-do works. So it should be displayed in our web browser. So let's check that here. That's it. Now inside this component, I will wrap everything with Bootstrap cart element. For that, you could search the same inside the documentation here, cart, and you could see the various examples. So here we go. First of all, we need a div with the class cart, and let's apply some shadow, and let's apply some top margin of the range 5. Now here we have the cart header. Let's align everything at center. Inside that, we have the app title within this h1 header, and which is having this Bootstrap class display 6. And also let's make it bold. So here we have the app title to-do list. So here we have the cart header with the app title. Now let's go ahead with the cart body. We need the padding from all the sides of the range 4. Now we need a text box and a button to post a to-do task. If you want to know more about Bootstrap form controls, you can search like this form. Okay, so here we have various form controls. Actually, we are going to use input group, which is a combination of text box and a button like this. A button attached with a text box. So here we go, div with the class input group. Inside that, we have the text box with the class form control. Now let's assign the placeholder here as something title goes here. And here we have the attached button with the class btn. Inside this button, we want to show a phone over some icons. So let's search that here, phone over some icons. So here we are inside the website phoneawesome.com/icons. So let's search for the plus button. Now make sure to filter the search result with this filter option here. We are only allowed to use these icons if we are using them for free. Now let me choose this button here, circle plus. Copy the corresponding I tag by clicking on the element here. Back to the VS Code, paste it over here. Boom, that's it. Now let's make this icon a little bit larger. For that, we could use this class from font over some icons, which is for-xl. Now, when we click on this plus button here, we have to save the corresponding to-do task into this Firebase DB. Okay. For that, let's add a click event to the button. So here we go. Click. So we'll call this function on click. Now into this function, we have to pass a reference to this text box here. Then only we will get the text that we have typed into it. Okay. So here we go. It starts with a pound symbol like this and give it a name like this, title input. Now let's pass the same here without the pound symbol. So here we have given a local reference to this input text box, and we could access the control or element within this function here on click. So let's define this function inside the corresponding component class TypeScript file here. So here we have the function on click, and for this function we have a single parameter title input, which is of the type HTML input element. Now we can retrieve the text that we have typed into this text box with this reference like this, title input dot value. Okay. Now we have to insert this to-do task into the Firebase DB here. That can be done within this service class to-do service. So first of all, let's import the required Firestore classes from the module Angular Fire compact /Firestore. We have to import Angular Firestore and then this class representing the Angular Firestore collection. Now let's inject this Firestore class into this service class here like this, private Firestore, which is of the type Angular Firestore. Now we'll be interacting with the Firebase project with this Firestore object here. Now in order to save the collection of records from the DB, we'll be creating a collection like this, Firestore collection, which is of the type Angular Firestore collection. Now, as you can see here, we have a red squiggly line indicating we have to initialize this property within the constructor. This dot Firestore collection is equal to Firestore collection. Within that, we'll be using this label to-dos. Now, inside this Firestore DB, we'll be creating a new node with the name to-dos, and under that, we'll be saving all the to-do tasks. So, with this Firestore collection, we have a reference to the collection. So rest of the operation can be done with this object here, Firestore collection. So let's check how to add a new record into the collection. For that, I will create a new function, add to do, which is having a single parameter title. So this is the task that we have typed inside the text box here that we have already there inside the on click event, and we'll be passing the same into this function in a bit. So now we have to save this title into this Firestore collection under this node to dos. For that, we could do this dot Firestore collection dot add function can be called, and we'll be creating a new record with this function. So we are passing an object like this. We'll be passing title is equal to title. So the new record will be having a property title, and into that we'll be saving the title from the text box. Since this property is receiving value from a property with the same name, we can even simplify the syntax like this. Along with this property, we will be having a property called is done, indicating whether this to-do task is completed or not. For new records, the value will be false. Currently, that's enough. Now back to the component class here, to-do component. Now we have to inject this to-do service into this component to make use of the function that we have just created. So here we go, private to-do service, which is of the type to-do service class. Just select this item from the auto suggestion. Corresponding import statement will be added at the top like this. And now let's call this function add to do inside this on click event here. So here we go. This dot to do service dot add to do method can be called. Into it, we can pass the value from the input text box like this. So this will create a new task inside the app. After that, I want to clear this text box here. So I will do this. Let me copy this and let's assign it with an empty string. Okay, and we only need to do this when there is a value inside this text box here. If the text box is empty, we don't want to push the empty string into the Firebase DB. For that, I will add this if clause here. This operation will be only happened if there is a value inside the text box. Let's check that here. Back to the application. Let me create a new task. Click on the plus button. The control is cleared. Now let's check whether it is inserted to the Firestore collection here. Boom, that's it. So under the collection, so a new collection is created with the name to-dos. Inside that, we have the document here and the values inside that can be seen here. For each record we insert into the collection, there will be a corresponding ID which you can see here. So this ID is used to uniquely identify each of the records inside the collection. Now let's check how to retrieve all the collection from a Firestore collection like this. That we can do inside this ng on a lifecycle hook here. We'll make use of the Firestore collection that we have inside this service class here. Firestore collection. So here we go, this dot to do service. That's how we have injected the service class here. From that we can access the Firestore collection, and then we can make use of the observable that is returned from this method of value changes. If you hover on this function, you could see that an observable is returned from this method. That means whenever value changes inside this collection, the callback function that we are going to define here will be invoked. So we'll subscribe to that like this, subscribe, and within that we have a callback like this. So whenever there is a change inside the Firestore collection, meaning insert, delete, or update operation, whatever it may be, this subscribe callback will be invoked. So that's how an observable works. Now in order to store the returned collection of records, I'm going to create an array here called to-dos, which is of the type any array. And let's initialize that with an empty array here. Now we're going to populate this inside this callback here. So here we go. This dot to-dos is equal to item. Meaning, so this callback parameter item will be having the collection of records that we have inside this Firestore DB here. Now let's render these to-do tasks inside this component HTML. So here we go, to-do component.html. So here we have the input group. Just beneath that, here we have the bootstrap list element with the class list group. And each of the item can be displayed with this li element having these class list group item. Now let's loop through this array to-dos. For that, we can make use of this ng4 directive star ng4 let item of to-dos. Inside the li element, we'll be having a span element like this. Now let's display the to-do task title. It can be accessed with this iteration variable item dot title, which is the property that we use to save inside this Firestore DB here, title. Okay, now let me save this and back to the application. Boom, that's it. Here we have the to-do item. Now along with each task, we need an element to change the status of the task. For that, I'm going to use a phone over some icon here. So we'll be using the I tag with this bootstrap class text success, and we'll be applying the corresponding phone over some class for the icons using this ng class directive. That is, if item is done property is true, then we will be using this class here for solid for circle check. So it will be a circle with check mark. Otherwise, we'll be using the font over some icon like this for regular for circle. So this will be a pure circle. Now let's check how this looks like. So here we have the font over some icon. Now when we hover on this element, we want to change the cursor style. That we can do inside the global style sheet here, styles.css, which is the outside this app module here, styles.css. So here we go. Within this list group item class, if there is a span, and if we hover on that, we want to change the cursor to pointer. Okay, let me save this. That's it. Now, if we click on this I tag here, we want to change the status of this task. That is, we want to change this is done property. For that, I'm going to add a click event here. So here we have the click event on status change. For now, let's not pass any argument to this function here. Let's define this function inside the component. Inside this function, we have to change the status of the corresponding record. So we need a way of uniquely identifying the record inside this collection here. That will be this unique ID here. Now let's check whether we are retrieving the same inside this ng on a lifecycle hook here. For that, I'm gonna just print this parameter item. Back to the application. Let's open the dev console. See, here we have the array and it is only having these two properties, is done and title. We have to retrieve this ID here. For that, I'm gonna do this. Into this value changes method, we're gonna pass an object as an argument saying we need the ID field within this property ID. Back to the application. That's it. Now we can uniquely identify a single to-do task inside this collection here. Now back to this function on status change. Into this function, we need two parameters, ID, which is of the type string, then the new status, which is of the type boolean. Now in order to update the status, I'm going to define a function inside this to-do service class here. Update to-do status having these two parameters, ID, new status. We just need to do this in order to update a record from the collection. We can call this method doc to uniquely refer a document inside the collection by passing the ID that we have. Now we just need to call this method update and just pass an object with the updated property. So we just need to update this property is done with the new status. That's it. Now like this, we may need one more method for deleting a record. So here it is, delete to do. We just need one parameter ID, which is of the type string. To delete a record, we just need to do this. Just call the delete method instead of update. That's it. Now back to the component here. Let's call this service method here, to do service dot update to do status, and let's pass these arguments here. Now let's pass the arguments from this on click event here. So first of all, we need the ID which can be passed from this item iteration variable item dot ID. Along with that, we have to pass the updated status. So we could do this item dot status. So this will return the current status. We just need to change that to the opposite. If it is false, we want to return true. If it is true, we want to return false. So for that, we can use this negation operator here. That's it. So the corresponding property is this one is done. Now let's try that here. See, this task is updated and you could see the same here. Now let's change the status back to its initial state. Boom, that's it. See, property is reset to false. So that's how we change the status. Now let's check how to delete and enter task. Before that, let me add few more tasks here called mom client meeting. Now suppose we have done with the gym workouts and then we'll be changing the status here. So in a to-do task, it is better to sort these items such a way that the already completed task will be listed at the bottom. For that, back to the ng on a lifecycle hook. Let's remove this log statement here. On this retrieved array, we're gonna call this sort method. And here we have the callback function with these two parameters a comma b, which is the comparison function in a sort method. We have already discussed these in our JavaScript course. So I will do this is done minus b dot is done. For those who don't know the comparison method, this is how it works. Currently we have the shortest compact syntax. Let me expand that here. Here we have the function body returning the value of this subtraction here. It is explained in MDN documentation here. So this is how it works. If this comparison method returns a positive value, then A comes after B. If the comparison method returns negative value, then A comes before B. If it returns 0, then there is no change. So that's what happens here. Actually, this property is of the type boolean, but in this context, it will be treated as a number. So boolean true will be treated as 1, boolean false will be treated as 0. So 1 minus 0, meaning this record A comes after B. That is, the record with is done property as false comes first. If you are confused about this array method sort, I have explained this method in detail in my JavaScript course. I have given the link in video description. You can check out that from there. If you want to be comfortable with Angular or Firebase and related languages like JavaScript or TypeScript, I have given some course recommendations in video description. Make sure to check it out. Now, before implementing the final delete operation, let's put these elements in their proper place. In order to highlight this card here, we already have a shade added to this card element. Along with that, let's apply a background color that is slightly different from the pure white. You can go to index.html. Into this body, let's add this bootstrap class bg light. So instead of pure white, here we have a light white color. Now let's add some padding to this card header here. So here we have the card header. Let's apply some padding vertically of the range 4. And let's remove this border here. For that, we can add this class here, border -0. That's it. Now let's customize this input group here. Instead of keeping them outside this list, I'm going to place them inside a list item like this. So here we go, li with these classes list group item. And let's move this input group here. Now here we have a lot of border, so I will hide the border of this input text box here. So here we have the class border -0, and let's apply some padding vertically of the range 3. So this is how it looks like. Now I want to hide this shadow here. For that we can add this class shadow none. Now let's customize this button a little bit. We will change its color to green, so we can apply this class here, text success, and we also need to hide its border. Boom, that's it. Now instead of keeping these list items stacked one over other without a gap, let's add some breathing space in between them. For that, I'm going to add bottom margin for each of the list item here. So here we have applied the bottom margin for the list item containing the text box. Now let's apply the same for each of the to-do task items. So let me copy this and pasting over here. So this is how it looks like. Here we have some margin, but you can't see it properly. So I will add some border for each of the items here. See, this is how it looks like. Now let's add some padding for these task items here. Vertical padding of the range 3. We have extra padding for this first input group here. Let's remove the default vertical padding. So everything is of the same height. Now let's apply round corner for each of the items here. For that, we could do this rounded of the range 3. Let's apply the same for these items also. That's it. Now let's implement the final operation, which is delete. For that, I'm going to add a span element after this to-do task here. So here it is, span, and we want to float that to the right side. So here we have the bootstrap class float end, and let's apply this color text secondary. Inside that, we'll be having this phone over some icon for trash can, for solid for trash can. Save this back to the app. So here we have the delete icon. Let's implement the on click event. Click, we will deal that inside this function on delete. Into that, we have to pass the corresponding record ID. Let's define this function on delete inside the component here. For this function, we have a single parameter ID of the type string. Inside that, we just need to call this service method here, delete to do. So here we go. This dot to do service dot delete to do, and just pass the ID here. Let's check the same here. Currently we have 3 records, and I'm gonna delete this record here for client meeting. So here it is. Boom, that's it. See, the corresponding record is deleted from the file.db. That's it, guys. You can download or clone this project from the GitHub repository link in video description. For more awesome videos like this, please consider subscribing to this channel if you haven't yet. Please like and share this video with your friends and colleagues so that they can also benefit from this. Have a nice day. Bye.